Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.
Welcome to the Deuce and Mo podcast. Deuce Mason, Morgan Reagan. We are recording this on a Wednesday morning. We've got some NBA offseason topics to hit on. The NBA schedule came out last week, and we're all obsessed about it. How many wins are the Kings going to get? What about this schedule? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I wanted to learn more about the NBA schedule.
Yeah.
How do they put this thing together? How long does it take?
Yeah.
All the different factors that are in play when the league puts it together. So we decided to reach out with someone who actually helps put the whole thing together. Gene Lee, who works in the NBA, his team is in charge of picking all the national TV games.
Like talking to so many different people throughout
Network
this process.
execs,
Yeah. Like,
teams. And we learned so much about how they put it together.
and you will too.
So, yeah, we'll share that conversation. Maureen, how about this news from Sean Cunningham? A little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas working out this week with the Sacramento Kings. Here's a tweet from Sean. Fan favorite Isaiah Thomas will be among a few free agents in Sacramento this week for some competitive workouts with Kings roster players who are in town. Sources say Tony Bradley, Juan Toscano-Anderson, and Lonnie Walker are joining that group. Kings also have a roster spot available, technically. So we're talking about a potential last roster spot, maybe some camp invites. Remember, you can invite up to like 21 people to camp. So the headline, though, I think for Kings fans is Isaiah Thomas, and I get it.
It's the number one headline of this for so many different reasons.
I get the attachment. I love IT.
Attachment.
He is one of my favorite Kings of all time.
100%. I mean, leaving it all out there on the floor with this team meant so much, especially during a time when it felt like there were lazy people on this roster and there was no life, there was no energy, and he brought that life.
Heart, soul.
All the things.
And like the other stuff of him literally going to city council meetings when the whole like Kings Arena saga was going on. Are they leaving? And he was there.
Yes.
As a Seattle guy, he was there. He just vibed with the fans, and I will forever love him for that.
Agreed.
And then just seeing the success after. But I just, from this perspective, I'm fine with him working him out. But I just don't see the fit completely. And I think you could talk yourself into it because, hey, it's a final roster spot.
Sure.
Maybe you just need a good locker room guy. But in terms of kind of what the Kings need, I just don't think they need another point guard.
Well, I think that's why Jordan McLaughlin was brought in, correct? And so when you think about that, you don't need another situation where you have guys that are injured throughout the year or whatever may happen, and then you're just going down the bench and you don't have the size to match up against another team. Obviously, we know IT's limitations with that throughout the years, and then you go, oh, but can't he play that Matthew Dellavedova role? But again, that's why Jordan McLaughlin was brought to Sacramento. If it had to be another point guard situation, you just don't need a whole bunch of point guards. I mean,
you also have so many players on the team now who can handle
that's
Fox,
my point.
Malik
Yes.
Monk, DeMar DeRozan. I think that's enough. And you have Jordan McLaughlin. I just think an undersized guard. And to be fair, Jordan McLaughlin's kind of undersized too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the path they need to go.
Yeah.
And I love IT. I think my heart, I could just close my eyes right now and go, could you imagine? Kings are up by 20 and now checking in. Isaiah Thomas. I mean, the ovation, the chills. He would have 18,000 people give him the most amazing ovation ever.
I could sell myself on this angle, which is so bad because but at the same time, it's like you said, it's a final roster spot. And you're hoping that you're only playing a certain amount of guys throughout the season anyway. But at the same time, this Isaiah Thomas thing just feels so special in so many different ways, even though they could be just doing him a favor, doing the agent a favor, what?
I'm also starting to talk myself into like, yeah, what happens if you get, no, hear me out. Hey, just have him come to camp. If he's got a good camp, maybe it's a situation where you give him like a partial guarantee. He's on the team for a couple of months. Like, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I look at this list of names, to be honest, and I go, when I think of Isaiah Thomas, it's just with all the injuries he's had, I admire him like fighting to stay in the league. I respect him so much. You look at the other names, Tony Bradley's a big. He spent a time in the G League last year. Toscano Anderson briefly in Sacramento last year, but a lot of time in the G League with Mexico City.
Yes.
And then Lonnie Walker, who last year was with the Nets. Before that, the Lakers. Before we get to Walker, those two other names are like G League names potentially. And I wonder how much of these workouts too are like looking at potential possibilities to fill out the Stockton roster, because these are things that happen this time of year too. You're not just like working out guys for your NBA team, but it's G League too.
Deuce, and you talk about that. I mean, you lost someone in Jordan Ford. You obviously are bumping Keon Ellis up. You think about someone like Mason Jones. What kind of role will he be playing? So like, yeah, you do look at that G League roster, and you're going to want to make sure that you are still developing internally. I mean, you even lost your head coach of the G League team. Like, you have a lot to do when it comes to this.
There's been some talk like maybe play-by-play and head coach at the same time.
Oh my God, he goes to the basket. What was that? No,
that's not my style.
Oh,
I'm
really?
a player's coach.
What is that? You can still yell and like have respect.
I want to go, what is that? You would say that in
I would say that to a
game.
fifth grader, yes.
You would say that in the middle of a game and embarrass a player.
No. I wouldn't embarrass them. There would be discipline involved. Anyway, it's not about us becoming play-by-play color analyst and then the head coach of the Stockton Kings. But going back to some of those names, yes, like you think about filling out the G League roster.
And maybe Isaiah's part of that. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what he's trying to achieve too. Like obviously I know he's trying to get back to the NBA,
Yes.
but I don't know. Maybe he's like, I just want to play. And this could be a good pathway for me to get that opportunity. I don't know.
I mean, if it was, cool, but I doubt that for him. He's so competitive.
Now, Lonnie Walker played in the NBA last year, literally, right?
Yep.
Like he's 25 years old. I think I'm intrigued by him a little bit, although I look at the final roster spot and Morgan, I go, why not just leave it open for some possibilities down the road? But someone like Lonnie has played in the league. He's 25 years old, 6'4".
Yeah.
6'4". He's long, though. 6'10", 6'10 and a half wingspan. So he has got the ability to guard some bigger guys. I think he has more success doing that. Then the three-point shot last year, 38% from three, 45% on corner threes.
Yeah.
You could do a lot worse with your final roster spot than someone like Lonnie Walker, who has literally been in rotations for teams.
Yeah, I when I saw Walker's name on there, I was like, oh, that's great. And then I also thought, wait, why are other teams wanting Lonnie Walker right now? So I'm curious how some of these workouts will look with him. Again, you talk about the size and you think about what this Kings team wants to do with their roster. But at the same time, like, that's not how life works. It's not like you can just like pick a whole bunch of guys and be like, oh yeah, can we just have a whole bunch of long people?
Yeah, and I also think it from, Lonnie Walker's perspective. Like, do you want to go somewhere where you're not sure you're in the rotation? Because even though we just talked about what he can potentially do out there on an NBA floor, just based on the Kings personnel that they have right now, you go, where is he playing? Is he playing in front of who?
Well, he's not. But then here's my thing, though. Then you go around the league, and at this point, if other teams aren't working him out or having him on their roster, like, doesn't he kind of have to get that mindset a little bit? Like, this might be my role, but I have to. Obviously, that's not going to stay his mindset. But yeah. So you go around the league and you go, but what team right now is he playing in front of guys? So
I also love this time of year because it's, late August here and we're going, hey, let's look at some final roster spot.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what makes it
Ball
fun.
is life.
Speaking of some other workouts, there's some workouts going on in SoCal this week. And I saw a 7-second clip. And I know, what do you get out of a 7-second clip? I see Sabonis. Wait, he's at USC. What's he doing there? Did he just hand off to DeMar DeRozan? And then DeRozan knocks down a jumper. It got me excited, Morgan, not because I saw Sabonis and DeRozan execute a dribble handoff. Of course, I knew that was going to be a part of it, but it did get me excited about, I forgot, like the potential of this two-man group and everything that can come out of that. I mean, we think about Monk and Sabonis having a good two-man game. You have DeMar DeRozan doing that.
Yeah.
What kind of options from Sabonis on the roll to a pull-up game from DeRozan, the playmaking, and you've got Fox on the floor.
We've talked about so much spacing the floor. What's the spacing going to look like? Keegan going to get a lot of shots whenever we talk about DeMar on the offensive end. And then as soon as you see just like a glimpse of this, you go, oh, wait, forgot to mention that little 2-man game and what that's going to look like. So, yeah, it does excite me for what's to come this season.
Well, here's what Sabonis had to say about being in SoCal.
It was good. First workout with DeMar. Flew in last night in LA, and going to be here for the week with him, and just trying to get to know our games and kind of pick and choose the spots we like and try and get the best out of it.
You know what I love about that? I just love that it's this time of year, and Sabonis is like, yeah, I'm going to go fly down, meet up with DeMar.
Yep.
Let's learn each other. We're going to be working with each other a lot. Let's learn everything, all the intricacies that we need. Hey, where do you like the ball? All those things, and doing it now, not waiting until October 1st of training camp.
Yeah.
Doing the shit now.
And I saw another video too where Doug was there as well, and it's great that you
Doug,
already know their relationship and them working on their game forever. And Doug's mindset, like, I think anyone that gets to work with Doug Christie is so lucky because they will become a better player.
Yeah, Doug pretty much is with Sabonis nonstop in the offseason.
On call.
Wherever.
Yep.
Around the world, he goes with Sabonis because Sabonis is always working on his game. So, yeah, no, I just love, even for Doug to get to know DeMar DeRozan on a deeper level and get that time and getting this started now as opposed to mid-September.
Absolutely.
Early October. This is an important year for Sacramento, and I think everybody realizes kind of what's at stake. This is Sabonis' prime years, and you minus with Fox and DeRozan too. You got to really make some noise, especially with what happened last year. I just think about the possibilities with those two, and I think the Kings' offense is going to have a bounce back year. I think it's going to be really, really dangerous this year with all the weapons they have. You have multiple guys out there who can command a double team, multiple guys out there that can make plays, knock down shots.
Simmer down. It was a 7-second video.
Yeah.
Simmer down.
Yeah.
It's August. I think you're just like
maybe I'm
don't
fiending.
don't drink the Kool-Aid.
I know. Was it 3 years ago when Sabonis was working out with Lethal Shooter knocking down threes? And I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And you got way too excited. So let's remember.
No, I don't think this is getting too excited about anything. This is more just I like the fact that these two are working out
for
together.
sure. In that moment, I saw you spiraling to your little kid going to Disneyland excitement, though.
Also, just spending time together.
Yeah,
hang out.
It's all you like it all. There's only good angles to that situation.
That's the other thing is you get to know. I think a lot of people can relate to this. It's one thing to work with people, right?
Yeah.
When you work with people, you go to the office, whatever, you vibe. But when there's a work trip, and you're in a different city, and it's hey, let's go grab a drink. Let's go do something. You're hanging out. You're not going home. You're forced to kind of get to know each other a little bit.
Build a relationship. Yeah.
It's huge.
And it's not about making sure that you all agree on all the same things off the floor. It's just about liking each other as human beings and, kind of just making sure other things align along the way, and it can build the chemistry that you need on the floor as well.
One last thing I wanted to get to, Morgan, this offseason topic. I saw our friend Chelsea Gray do an interview. Shout out to her.
Gold medalist.
Just won a gold medal with Team USA. She was asked about future WNBA teams.
If you were to start a new WNBA team, what city would you pick?
Man, they just did my hometown in the Bay Area, so that's the one I would have done.
Right.
I would have did it right then and there.
But if you had to go somewhere else now?
I had to go somewhere else now. Got one in Vegas. I might move down the road a little bit and maybe go back to Sacramento, bring that thing back.
Hell yeah, Chelsea. Great. Hell yeah, Chelsea.
You know the weight of my heart, Chelsea.
So the WNBA currently has 12 teams.
Yes.
At its peak, I think 2000, 2002, they had 16 teams.
Okay.
Next year, we get the 13th team, the Golden State Valkyries, right? They enter the WNBA. Now, the commissioner of the WNBA has suggested that they feel there's a chance they could get up to 16 again by 2028, maybe add a 14th team by 2026.
Okay, why are you taking a breath?
Because I think Sacramento would be a great market for the WNBA. I don't think anyone disputes that. I get so frustrated with how things went. back in 2009 when the Blues just went, oh, we're just disbanding this thing.
Yeah.
We don't have the money. We're just going to close up shop. And it was just such a different climate. The economy was shit. The WNBA was kind of in the tough spot. And they just it just disappeared overnight.
Yep.
And this was a team that was won a championship here, competed for championships, has Hall of Famers, Hall of Fame talent, or, players that are highly regarded, from Yolanda Griffith to Tisha Pinachero to Kara Lawson. There was a legacy here.
Sure.
And so it's such a bummer that it's not back. And I just, with the arrival of the Golden State Valkyries, I just wonder if the league, even though they're planning on expanding more, is focused on adding another team in California when you've got the Sparks, now the Valkyries, especially just 90 minutes away. I just don't think Sacramento is going to be a legit candidate to add a team anytime soon.
Well, here's the thing. I think when you look at it like that, it's short-sighted, because you shove a team in a random city that's not a basketball town, that's not a basketball city, you're not going to see the success that you need to see for that organization, for that franchise. And when you look at Sacramento, it has always been a basketball city. It will always be a basketball city. Things change, evolve. That is the one thing through shitty basketball and WNBA championships that this city has stayed true to, and that is being a basketball city. And that's not just because I'm a basketball junkie and I live, breathe, eat it. It's truly what it is.
I hear you, and I completely get it. But now, women's basketball is a hot product, right?
Yeah,
It
I know.
is.
Jump on it when it's hot.
I know.
Idiots.
It's a hot product,
God.
which means more people want teams. Some of the cities that have been mentioned now, Toronto,
Yeah.
Philly,
Yeah.
Portland
I get it.
at one point had a team, Denver, Nashville. So, and then you start thinking about South Florida.
Barf.
At some point, why would California be the focus when there are other
Sure.
places outside of California that they could use to expand the brand?
I guess, that. But I guess if you are seeing success with, it's not apples for apples, obviously, when you look at the NBA to the WNBA. But if you do see success of the NBA having multiple franchises in this state and what that can do, I know I'm obviously trying to sell it no matter what.
If you're Joe Lacob, and you just got it, okay, you just got a team in San Francisco. The last thing you want, especially anytime soon, is to have any competition 90 minutes away.
Shit.
And that's why back in the day, which is crazy to think, when the Sacramento Monarchs were here, there was no team in the Bay Area.
Right.
So you actually drew a lot of people from the Bay Area to Sacramento to watch the WNBA too. So the last thing you want is any competition. And I got to be honest, when I saw the Golden State Valkyries color scheme, I went, there's some Monarchs-esque
There's
looks in
so
there.
much Monarchs energy in that I'm just
Yeah, I guess I completely agree with Chelsea. I agree with you. God, Sacramento makes so much sense, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And it bums me out because I think this city would support it so strong because they did it before. Basketball is hotter than ever, especially women's basketball. God, I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
what do I do as a basketball fan? Because I'm going to go full in to the Valkyries. I adopted the Aces, but the fact that the Valkyries are going to be 90 minutes away, I am that is going to be my WNBA team.
I think that's fine.
But then what if the Monarchs pop up 10 years from now?
Then you become a Monarchs fan.
Divorce? Whoa.
Don't forget the 05 WNBA Sacramento Monarchs banner behind us.
My heart.
But look at that logo.
It's so perfect.
She
is so pretty.
No, it's a great logo, but it also
I know.
pisses me off because I'm like, oh man,
I know.
we're gonna have to have a different color scheme. Golden State, it's stole a color scheme.
Then then you steal the Golden State Warriors color scheme. It means war.
I don't want that stupid yellow and blue of the
I
Warriors.
love purple.
Oh.
I love purple. As I'm wearing some yellow.
Anyway,
Tower Records.
yeah, we'll have to wait for some years. Let's get to our conversation with Gene Lee. He put together, he and his team. Can you imagine him by himself? I'm gonna sit down and figure this out. They put together the NBA schedule. How is it done? He's the AVP of broadcast scheduling with the NBA, our good friend, Gene Lee. Hi, Gene. How are you?
Good. Hey, Morgan. Hey, Deuce. How's it going?
We're so good. We are even more excited now because ever since the schedule came out, we couldn't wait to pick your brain. And the fact that we're getting to pick your brain a little bit this year is just an exciting time for us.
Yeah, and there's so many questions that immediately pop to my head when I think about your job, which I feel like, I know it's not just you, you're part of a team, but it's a lot. You've got 30 NBA teams, multiple buildings, a ton of dates, conflicts. So I want to go over all of it. But first things first, now that the schedule is out, is there a sense of relief once it's done? We're like, whew, wow, we did it.
Oh, for sure. The main relief is that we didn't schedule a game on a night that already had an NHL game or a concert. We didn't send anyone, to the wrong city. We didn't list the wrong game somewhere. Yeah, so to have 100% accuracy for our 1,200 games that we released, that is certainly a relief.
Has it happened where you guys released, you're like, oh, we're good, and then you're like, oh no, there was one thing we messed up here?
I believe that may actually have happened sometime in the past. I think there was one year where we had a game at a certain time for ABC, and then it turns out that that game needed to be earlier for ABC because there was a hockey game later that night. So we needed to do like an NBA NHL doubleheader. That was probably many years ago. And I would say in the last 7, 8, 9 years, we've been pretty good.
Yeah,
100%, baby.
I mean, yeah,
that's pretty good.
That's very good. I get anxiety even just like thinking about being a part of it, and if I had messed that one thing up. But like at the same time, it's also there's going to be human error. Like it makes sense. So it's pretty incredible that you guys are on point with everything. But I'm also very curious when everything really begins. The scheduling process. Obviously, the season ends, and then you start going into everything. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the process really begins about a year before the season starts. Wow. So that's typically when we will inform the teams of the season dates. And then that's when they send us their like arena availability of, when they have concerts, when they have concert holds, when they have, conferences and so forth. And we want that pretty much as early as possible so that we know which dates that we want to steer teams to try to get, from like promoters, or, from like NHL. Because for instance, for the NBA Cup, we really need as many dates as possible, and we definitely need those 2 dates that we play the NBA Cup quarterfinals. So for the ultimate flexibility, we'll say, hey, please tell us what's in your arena for every single date of the regular season. However, we would like for you guys to focus on these dates. We want you guys to focus on these NBA Cup dates. We want you guys to focus on ABC Saturdays, ABC Sundays, TNT Thursdays, and so forth. So that's like sort of like the trigger to the season process. But to your point, we really start in earnest after the season ends. Okay. So once a champion is crowned, that's probably when we'll start working on the Christmas schedule in earnest. So we'll start with opening night, opening week, Christmas, those tentpoles first. And we'll have probably like dozens of scenarios for Christmas, right? And so but we need the champion to be crowned first because one of our sort of unwritten rules is that the champion gets to host on Christmas. So we'll go from there. Then the draft happens, and then the start of free agency. So we typically will wait until after the start of free agency to start building out the national TV schedule. And the national TV schedule is really that first schedule that we built, just to make sure that we have all the marquee teams on, the marquee matchups on, all the relevant storylines that the fans want to watch on national TV. Then we'll build the rest of the schedule on top of it. So I would say it's like a 6-week sprint, between, when we first start modeling out those games to when we release the schedule, then in mid-August.
Yeah, so that sounds intense. It's like, and it's exciting too, right? Because you think of one storylines, you're talking about a champion, you're talking about maybe some fun playoff matchups, maybe some players have moved. We think, right away about Klay Thompson going to Dallas, and when's that first game going to be against the Golden State Warriors? I'm guessing too, you're working in collaboration with the TV partners because they obviously want certain matchups too. I'm sure there's people, one network's like, we want that first Golden State Dallas matchup. How much are you working with the TV partners in selecting those marquee games?
Yeah, certainly. We work with them essentially hand in hand. So we start the process with them probably several months before the season starts. So I would say like in winter or spring, where they're going to provide for us their broadcast windows. So we work with them on their broadcast windows first. And then by the time that we're sort of like midway through the playoffs, they'll start sending us, like their preferred team appearances, the preferred matchups, like which nights that we should be prioritizing. For instance, like for ESPN, Thanksgiving Eve is a really big night, that does well historically for them. For TNT, it's the Thursday Command All-Star, right? So like various sort of tent poles that we work with the networks on. And then, we do want our partners to be happy with their matchups. So, that's why we build the national TV schedule first before we build the rest of the local games on top of it. And yeah, to your point about that first Dallas at Golden State game. So we found out when the NBA Cup drawing was done that matchup would be an NBA Cup matchup. Now, however, there are for this season 2 Dallas at Golden State games. And it varies between 1 and 2 because they are intra-conference, interdivisional opponents. So those matchups will be played 3 or 4 times each year. So there's not a guarantee, right? So so like there probably have been some years where there's only 1 Dallas at Golden State game, but this year there's 2.
Yeah.
And so once we knew that it was going to be an NBA Cup group play game, we thought, wow, let's have that be the actual first Clay return game. And let's have it on the first night of NBA Cup group play, and let's start group play with a bang, right? Let's go as big as possible. So the national TV doubleheader that night is New York at Philly, and it's the first time that they'll play this season after their pretty exciting first round series last season, and then that Dallas Golden State game. So that national TV doubleheader is going to be really strong. And then so that game's going to be on TNT, and so then we wanted to give the other Dallas Golden game to ABC, so like there's gonna be things like that where we want to mix and match and balance between partners.
So I guess putting the storylines and the angles, like those prioritize higher sometimes than other things, not just for, I guess, these TV partners, but just even when you're looking at everything when it comes to planning.
Yes. So there will be teams where, for instance, if a team is out for like 2 weeks, out of their arena because they have, probably like multiple conferences, that are connected or multiple, events that take them out of the building, they're like, oh, this team absolutely must get a home game probably before or after that stretch, right? So like there's things like that. Or there's things like, oh, this team, they have a annual charity poker tournament, which they need to be in their home market, but, they can't play, so like we get lots of these high priority requests from the teams. And then we have certain things that we must do for certain teams based on their like arena availability. And so those things stacked up to then the national TV storylines that we want to deliver to our broadcast partners. Those things sort of all mix together.
So there's a lot going on, right? Yeah, because we talk about arenas, and I think so. And in Sacramento, at least, you go, oh no, that's where the Kings play. This is their building. But in Sacramento, there are other shows that come to town.
Sure.
Disney on Ice is like one where it seems like the Kings are always gone at a certain point because Disney on Ice is in town or something like that. But then you have other buildings where, like, no, they share with a hockey team. This is a crazy venue. Or, back when the Clippers were at Crypto, it was the Clippers, the Lakers, the LA Kings. And I mean, just crazy to think about all those dates. So you think about all those asks too. Do you guys just dump this into a computer system and go, okay, here we go. Computer, figure this out?
Yeah, so for the national TV schedule, just because there's so many considerations, we pretty much do those games by hand first, because it would almost be too taxing to just write the number of constraints, for the national TV schedule. And also there's a lot of things that we kind of do by feel, so like we obviously want to use like the quantitative, viewership projections that we use, or, like the team appearances that our networks request. But there's also it feels like, oh, you know what? Let's get let's get that first Clay return game, early in the season. Like, oh, let's get that first Paul George return game, early in the season. Let's do these kind of heavy hitter marquee matchups later in the season. So there's various considerations for that we then do those 160-ish games manually, and then we'll use a scheduling software to try to build the rest. So we're using this third-party software that is built by a company that they have lots of clients, but they built this system that is tailor-made for us, that has all the constraints that we need, for game density, for travel, for weekends and that kind of stuff. So what we'll do is we'll lock in those TV games, we'll lock in the team priority requests, and then the optimizer will then try to build the rest of the schedule on top of it. We then do a fine-tuning process manually as well, because the optimizer is quite not to the level where we can just say, just click at once and then just have us, spell out a perfect schedule. But that does take us, most of the way there to create the full 1,200 game schedule.
Yeah, because that's what I was curious about, just how many drafts of the schedule do you guys, your team, go through?
Yeah. So for the national TV schedule, so like my last file when we got signed off from the networks was D65. So we went through that many for the national TV schedule.
Wait, you say 65? This is just for national TV.
Yeah. So because so it takes
drafts?
us
Yes.
just like so many iterations to.
Are you okay?
There's because it's done sort of like in steps, right? And then there's a lot of times from like, oh, you know what? I want, so and so game on this night. But then once we build out more of the national TV schedule, we realize, oh, you know what? We actually need to change the date of this game so we can fit another game in here. So like for instance, there is a Golden State at Sacramento ESPN game during Rivals Week, which is like that week, like in late January. And so, like that Rivals Week slate, probably changed multiple times. So just because we're trying to get in the relevant matchups, but sometimes, like a game doesn't make sense, or like they can't be there. For instance, like I thought it would be great, for us to get like a Pacers Knicks, or like a San Antonio OKC, like those are kind of like the budding rivalries for Rivals Week. However, San Antonio and Indiana are going to Paris that week, right? So they're going to Paris for the Paris games that week. Then it just so happens to be the same week as Rivals Week, so we can use those teams, right? So there's lots of iterations to that. And then my colleagues in our basketball strategy team, they're the ones who are handling the optimizer, and so there's like so many drafts there, that they're doing for the overall game schedule.
Before I get to the next question, I have to ask. Growing up, were you like a type A personality? Were you like, hey, because like I'm a schedule person, but like scheduling someone else's life or like, professional basketball, that just gives me anxiety. Did you always schedule everything in your life or what?
I honestly didn't really. And I think there are definitely times where I think about it, and it's a little bit daunting to think that when we create the schedule, we are really affecting, I would say, tens of thousands of people's lives directly. And then we're affecting, millions, obviously, of our fans that are watching the games. And so that's why, that and the fact that this is a very public facing job where like our product's like literally out there for everyone to see does give us more pressure and more responsibility to do well and to not screw up.
Okay, well then how about this? Back-to-backs,
Yeah, because that's changed in recent years, right? Like those numbers have gone down drastically. No more 4 games in 5 nights, if I'm not mistaken.
In town, in the same city, sometime back-to-backs, like those as well.
Yeah, what are some of the priorities that your team looks at? I know we talk about the national side, but also just big picture with the schedule when it comes to factoring in like back-to-backs and those stretches.
Yeah, so I think that basketball aspect and the game density aspect, we really started prioritizing that about a decade ago, so like in the mid 2010s. And so from then, which, I think we had a peak of like 19 or 20 back-to-backs per team per season. Now we're around, 14 or 15, right? So like this year we're at 14.9. So that and getting rid of 4 games in 5 nights. This year we also don't have any 8 games in 12 days or 18 games in 30 days.
Wow.
Those are also some key KPIs that we and our teams focus on. So we definitely want to get rid of those. We also want to reduce the number of national TV games that are on the second night of back-to-backs. So we were at, so we've definitely, lowered that count as well. So yeah, so, this is all really important. And what's actually kind of interesting is that like a perfect schedule that has no back-to-backs would essentially have a team play almost like every other day, right? But the thing is, as we've reduced the number of back-to-backs, we've also reduced the number of 2 and 3 days off. So what that ended up doing is now teams have less natural off time to practice. So teams practice less now than they used to, when there were more back-to-backs because now there's less 2 days off. So it actually kind of worked counterintuitively. So then there are definitely some teams and some, coaches and GMs that say, we like what you're doing to get, to reduce the number of back-to-backs. However, we still need this, more 2 days off so that we can have a natural practice day. So the thing is, our season footprint is sort of limited, because like the players still need an off season. We can't just play forever. So there's kind of like a balance where we're trying to strike between trying to get back-to-backs low, but also gives teams, enough breathing room so that they can go practice.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really thinking about
I think that's probably the most common question I do get from other, from fans is like, why not just eliminate back-to-backs? But you're right. I mean, it would you'd be playing every other day. And then that gets even more complicated with like building availability and travel.
Yeah, if we had our buildings completely available across the entire season, we can definitely reduce the back-to-backs to a pretty low number, I'm assuming. But our buildings, as you've alluded to, are just so busy, with hockey and concerts and whatever other stuff.
So how much influence does an actual, like a specific organization, a specific team have in some of the scheduling? Not even if it has anything to do with the, if anything else is going on at the arena, whatever. But like if they're, hey, we want to be here during this time of year. I don't know.
We want to be here, or like, hey, we want to be on national TV this many times, or like.
Is there influence from teams?
So there's, I think, the formal and then there's the informal. So the formal is we always give teams a chance to respond to the schedule. So we released the schedule last week. The week prior to that, we sent teams a draft schedule, and the teams basically had like a day to provide their formal comments. And so when we do think that is something that is egregious or something that we should fix, then we'll definitely do our best to fix. Ultimately, the schedule now is so constrained, by us wanting to reduce back-to-backs, by the NBA Cup footprint, and by like the national TV schedule, that it's pretty hard to really adjust for one team schedule without negatively impacting multiple teams. But we'll definitely still try it. So that is the formal way. The informal way, then yes, there's always pressures from pretty much all sides.
Yeah. People like us that bug you and go, hey, what are
you doing here, G?
Sacramento, come on. Like,
yeah. So
I know one actually.
What?
I'm not asking you to respond to this. This is just for Morgan.
Oh.
You play Boston, and then the next night OKC on TNT.
The Kings.
What's a Sacramento do to deserve that?
Are you saying this to me in private right now? So then
pretend like Gene's not even here for
got
this.
it. Got it. I
Boston,
like it.
okay, back to back.
You know what? I'm sure there's probably
TNT the next night?
after talking to him for the last
There's a
15
good
minutes. I'm
reason?
sure there's a good reason.
Okay.
yeah.
We talk so much about like all the different things that you and your team have to look at when putting this together. What's your favorite part about it? Like, what's your favorite part about your job?
Yeah, I think the favorite part is just seeing our product. I love watching our games. I love watching our national TV games. So to know that I basically, was a part of setting that schedule and just, creating these hopefully very appealing matchups and doubleheaders and, like the Christmas slate and so forth. And then, there's times where, like obviously online we get both positive and a negative feedback.
Sure.
But when a commenter on like Instagram says, "Oh, like the NBA schedule is cooked," or something like that. Yeah, I mean we probably more often get the opposite kind of feedback. But certainly just knowing that people enjoy our product, people enjoy the schedule, since it is very public facing, that's probably my favorite part of it.
Like, it probably feels so good when there's a Christmas game that just crushes, that just kills on Christmas Day. Is there a specific time of year where it's the most fulfilling for you when a game just crushes on TV?
I think so for the regular season, I would probably say opening week because it's so fresh, and like everyone's really excited. And then, if you're putting a team on and then, they really show out, then that's like, oh, wow, you know what? We got lucky with,
because that's hard. You never know what you're going to get, I feel like, at the beginning of a season.
Right, exactly. And there's going to be like blowouts, during like opening, that kind of stuff. But, hopefully, those games are competitive and then everyone's really excited, so that's great. But probably more so for me is the playoff schedule, so like when we release the playoffs. So like, just seeing, for instance, like opening weekend, those 8 games, making sure that we have the right sequencing, which games are on which networks, that definitely is great. I'm basically on my couch, basically for, to watch all 8 games and just trying to see, what did we do well here? Was this a nice segue? Was this nice sequencing?
How well do you know the schedule? Like, if I asked you something about a national TV game, would you know it off the top of your head, or do you have to look? I'm just so curious because of how locked in you are with the schedule. Do you have it memorized?
There are seasons and there are stretches of national TV schedule where I can tell you the doubleheader that night. I would say this year I can probably tell you right now, 70, 80%. If you give me a date,
That's insane.
I can probably tell you the games on those nights. But I don't have it 100%.
That's really good.
Gene, I don't know if that's healthy or not.
Ball is live, Morgan. One more thing. This is the last thing because I know I'm just thinking what fans are going to, hey, what about this one? So I feel like there's no number that is going to satisfy a fan. But being on national TV, I think is the ultimate sign of respect in the league, right? That means you feel your team is worthy of being in front of a national stage. So Kings fans saw that between ESPN and TNT, they're on 6 times, which I think is down from the scheduled 11 last year. They didn't make the playoffs. It makes sense. There's a chance that games could be added later, right? How does that process work?
Yeah, so we do flex scheduling during the season, and we want to be as sensitive to what's going on during the season and capturing the right moments and the right teams and the right matchups. So there are times that we'll miss, or maybe a star player's injured and maybe a game on that night is a better fit. So we've done honestly probably more and more of that. And our teams are really good about being cooperative, because we sometimes need start time changes, and sometimes an RSN broadcast gets taken away because now it's a TNT exclusive and so forth. But so we've done, I think last year we were in the high teens. Wow. So we changed I'd say something 18-ish games from ESPN and TNT. And we'll change a lot of games that's on NBA TV as well. Yes, so that definitely happens. So if the Kings go on a run, and with the addition of DeRozan, the team could really jump and be really exciting. And so, the Kings are certainly a candidate to be flexed on.
Deuce is that's what Deuce wanted to talk to you just to plant this now. I know this guy.
Gene, seriously, we appreciate you taking the time to give us a little insight about what you do. I think so many fans are curious about man, how does this all work? Because you're right, there are so many games, so many different factors from, like we said, TV partners, building availability, interesting storylines. Things evolve so fast in this league. Teams make trades out of the blue. And you're oh, wow, this will shift things. So it's interesting to get a peek inside your world, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Yep. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Shout out to our guy, Gene Lee. Also, a couple of reminders. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Deuce and Mo, where we do monthly live streams with the people. And circle this on your calendar. Put it in your phone. Get ready. October 23rd, Deuce and Mo live show taking place at Harlow's in Sacramento. We've got details to come on when tickets go on sale and all that fun stuff. We appreciate you guys so much, but we's gots to go.
You all have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya!
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and